Okay, now the second session that I want to discuss with you is plagiarism and referencing. Now, in the previous one, we actually discussed about a few basic things pertaining to academic writing, which is understanding the contents of a research paper and what exactly is meant by the introduction and the literature review of a research paper. So we understood the basic components that are available in the research paper as well. Now, having discussed that, now the next thing that I want to discuss with you is plagiarism and referencing. Okay, right. Now, I think I should have done this in the previous lecture, but still, so on behalf of SIEM, I warmly welcome all of you. And as you may have already know right now, my name is Naren. And so this is an online session, so I probably don't hear you right now because I am recording this right now. Please, drop me a message, and if you want to share anything about yourself, that might definitely interest me. And please feel free to share them. I would like to get to know all my students personally, regardless of the mode they take classes, right? So if I just introduce myself, I'm a very liberal person, and I advocate reasoning, which is part of the reasons why I teach research methodology. Likewise, if you also could drop me a message which I can share with you with other students in the class, that would be really good. And feel free to send even a video recorded message, and I would be glad to share that among rest of the students as well, to show that we have students from other countries and other places, and they are taking up classes, so that would be really nice. And I also want to state that we come from diverse backgrounds, and these differences are conducive to improve the quality of the overall learning experience that we are having here. So feel free to always share your opinions in the class and post things on the VLE. And so the basic premise behind all of this is to learn and grow as a community. So always make sure to do that, and I would highly appreciate that. Now, contents of the lecture. Now, the first thing that I want to discuss is plagiarism, the act of plagiarism, and what exactly is meant by self-plagiarism and plagiarism and related ethical and professional misconducts. And then finally, poor scholarly work. And then we will be discussing about referencing, how exactly in-text citations are being done and how the final referencing is being done. And then I want to discuss about some basics of academic writing for postgrad students. Now, okay, so let's start with plagiarism. Now, you might notice that I have started this with a small reference here. Now, in the previous lecture, we discussed about the contents of a research paper. Now, if you notice closely, the title of this paper is Concepts, Factors and Solutions related to plagiarism. So this paper is about plagiarism, and it was published in the Iranian Journal of Military Medicine, 14th volume, 3rd issue. Is available in pages in between 168 and 177. These are the names of the authors. This is the last name, Bahaduri. The M is the first name's initial, right? Last name, initial, last name, initial. Now, the reason I have done this is I have taken this information, the information that you see right here, this highlighted one, this information I have actually taken from this particular paper. Because now if I don't use a paper to give this information at master's level, that would be considered as poor scholarly work. Because if I tell you something, I need to always show proof, like how exactly I got this information. Because I ask the same thing from you to do in your coursework, right? So that is very important. So the rest of the information that you see in the next few slides is actually taken from this paper. Now, one thing that I want to tell you is, in science and even in management as well, we do research to create knowledge. So we create knowledge to understand about certain phenomena of interest. Now, for example, uh, let's say now you work in a particular organization where people are given lots of work. So people get stressed and would eventually lead to burnout. Now, if that is the case, you can produce a report to your human resources stating this how the things would unfold in the future. But then you need to make sure this evidence is credible. The particular theory that you are postulating is credible. So for you to do that, you need to get this information from published research. So, if a professor or if maybe a healthcare professional has stated this and it has been published in a valid journal, then you can quote saying, here's what this particular person of this university says about this. So, then, although you know this personally, you can still support your claim by this information. So, it has more weight and more legitimacy in terms of convincing the reader on the gravity of what you are saying. So this is exactly what we do in our literature review as well. So, and the reason why we have this concept of plagiarism is sometimes we give this information, but then we don't give the credit to the person who initially said it. Now, for example, let's say now you read somewhere that if people work too much, it would lead them to have stress, and the stress would ultimately result in burnout. Now, if this was said in a particular paper, and you found this information from that paper, but you still don't give any credit and write as it is your own thinking or reasoning, then you are pretty much plagiarizing because you haven't given the credit to the person. So the important thing is, by giving credit, one thing is you are avoiding plagiarism, the other thing is you are gaining more legitimacy or validity to what you write. So doing this unethically is the problem. So stealing others' ideas is a common academic misconduct that is common both in Sri Lanka and in the United States, and in other Western countries as well. I basically talk about United States quite a lot since I have my academic background over there. But it is very common to steal ideas even in the United States as well. I think for my advisor's wife, when she was doing her PhD, I think it has happened to her as well. So this is very common. But those days, it was just stealing others' ideas. But now, in this century, stealing is very easy because it's just a matter of copy and pasting. So you don't need to necessarily wait for someone to tell an idea because information is freely available. So students just take, copy and paste them. So that is exactly why we should discourage this always. So plagiarism in essence means using someone else's work without acknowledging it. So for example, let's say now I personally have published a few journal articles, and currently I have a book under publication. So let's say my book is now published and out. So you take some information from that book, and without stating that you got this information from my book, you just write it as your own reasoning. So if you do that, that would be plagiarism. And plagiarism involves quite a lot of individuals, like it involves students, academics, and other practitioners. So we have to be extremely cautious as we keep on engaging in our study activities, because plagiarism is a grave misconduct. So even at SIEM, if a student is caught for plagiarism, they will have to go through a inquiry, and then later it might even result in grade deduction, or could even result in a suspension as well. Even the university might react very negatively if a student is caught for plagiarizing something. So plagiarism is a massive misconduct. We usually advise students at the undergrad level, but when it comes to postgrad, that's a big no. So plagiarism is a serious problem in higher education, and the rates are increasing at an alarming speed. And as I said, the reason for this is there are unlimited access for ideas. People post things everywhere, and some people don't know about these things. So because of that, it is been happening quite a lot. So why do you think this is problematic anyways? Now, let me give you a few reasons why I think this is problematic. The first thing is it takes a lot of time and effort to compile a manuscript, right? Now, the previous research that I wrote, that was 25,000 words. It took me 9 months to write, and I had to work really hard to, like come up with all those things. So if someone just take it and publish it as their own, then that's going to make me feel really sad, depressed, and quite a lot of things. So uh, it pretty much undermines my time and effort, the person who does it, right? And the publication process again is extremely tedious, and making multiple amendments is a painstaking process. So if you have plagiarized even a single sentence, the editor would ask you to do it again. You have to paraphrase this and give credit and all that. So it's a painstaking process. And then writing, of course, is serious business. It takes a lot of time because we often worry about our words. We often think whether our words would fit the context and all that. So I personally have the habit of rewriting the same thing at least 3-4 times just to make sure that my writing is good. So end of the day, after doing that much, after exerting that much of effort, the last thing that I want is someone plagiarizing my work. And plagiarism not only steals the product but also undermines the original author's effort. So then, due to these reasons, we think that plagiarism is extremely that's a very negative thing to do. It is bad, and more than that, it is despicable, right? So those are the things. Now, plagiarism. When let's talk the way it occurs. Some people plagiarize ideas. This is very common for lesser known concepts and ideas. What some other people do is they rephrase certain things. They change the grammar. They use synonyms, reorder sentences, and rewrite with different set of words, still without giving any credit, right? So if you give credit, then that is technically not plagiarism, but still you can't copy and paste. If you do that, that would be considered as poor scholarly work. So just to make sure that there are some individuals who take ideas and then they rephrase and write because they think, okay, now if I do that, then people will think this is my idea. No, hell no. That never works like that. So if someone does that, then that is rephrasing, which technically is still under plagiarism. And there's artistic plagiarism where people use text, voice, figures, and other forms of algorithms to often, mislead the public. And the last one is incorrect referencing. Incorrect referencing still means I know that it's a mistake from the person who has done it, but still incorrect referencing basically means that you haven't given credit end of the day. So technically that still would be not giving credit. So plagiarism, right? So here's a graphical representation of how plagiarism occurs. Self-plagiarism. There are individuals who actually plagiarize their own work. So, for example, one paper overlaps with another without any acknowledgement. So, let's say the entire academia and this research and all that is based on how much you publish. The more you publish, the better, especially for people in academia. So what they do is sometimes they write very similar papers. So they do one research, they get the data, they analyze it, they write one paper and then reanalyze the data using some other techniques and then write another paper which overlaps with the previous one without acknowledging it sometimes. Because if you acknowledge, then you technically can't do it because then the editors would know this is the same thing that you are posting again. So if you do that, that is self-plagiarism. And as I said, breaking a larger paper into smaller set of papers. There are some individuals like that. They collect data, a massive number of data, and then they make about 10 papers out of it, which is very unacademic, and at the same time, that is once again an example of self-plagiarism. Now, the next one is republishing some work. So, publishing a larger paper using a set of smaller papers, multiple recalculations of the same result, deception, announcing the same results in multiple papers, reusing tables and figures, and republishing under two names. So these are all examples of plagiarism. Now one might wonder, why do we need to exactly worry about this? Because these are the ethics. There needs to be ethics when it comes to academia and like our studies. One of the biggest reasons now for having this much of diminished respect towards individuals who study is because of this plagiarism and other forms of deception students use. There are lots of assignment services now. There are lots of like other forms of services that help students to do things without even exerting the effort. So this is exactly why these things are being happening. So which is something that we should always try to avoid, because if we exert effort, then that is reflected in our learnings always. So because of that, plagiarism is highly, it's harmful. It has to be always avoided at any cost. Now, plagiarism by students, as I said, buying a pre-ordered paper or presenting another student's work. So these are plagiarism that students do. And there are certain types of students, and basically related to plagiarism. There are students who intentionally plagiarize. So they really know that they steal someone else's ideas, and they still do it because sometimes they think, okay, my teacher would never find me. Okay, here's the thing. We have methods to find that, and I will be enlightening you about like all those things as well. So we find them, and then we react. When we react, it always is very formal. But then intentional plagiarism is something. It's the most hazardous, and it's the thing that has to be avoided at any cost, because uh, the person who does this knows. So after intentional plagiarism, the next one is unintentional plagiarism. So this occurs due to lack of skills in writing or due to ignorance. So sometimes people plagiarize because now I have met some students who actually read papers and then they write things in the coursework. And when they do that, they think, okay, now I am just writing using my own words, but if your vocabulary is not so developed, you might end up writing the same set of words again. That is unintentional plagiarism, which has to be once again avoided. The next one is casual plagiarism, due to lack of awareness in plagiarism and referencing, pretty much like the unintentional ones. And the last is the self-plagiarism, which we discussed some time ago. Okay. Now, reasons for plagiarism. First thing is student attitudes towards education. Education is serious work, serious business, but unfortunately, not a lot of people seem to have comprehended this, which has become the issue for the most part. So, students' attitude has to be changed to improve plagiarism-related problems from occurring further. And lack of personal investment or commitment towards education is another reason, right? Because for you to write something original, you have to exert effort for that. And then there's situational ethics. Some people think, okay, it's okay to break some laws to obtain better grades and save time. To get better grades, sometimes students plagiarize because they think if I steal this, it would be better rather than I'm writing this thing by my own self. And then time management issues, personal values, attitude towards the teacher, lack of deterrence. Lack of deterrence because some institutes and some educational bodies, they don't give any punishments for this. When people don't give punishments, there is no reason for students to refrain from doing it, because there is no form of deterrence. So here at SIEM we have the ways to like deter these things, because we conduct inquiries, and then we give reactions. So we react based on our policies and procedures book. Okay, right. Now, how exactly am I going to detect plagiarism? One of the famous softwares for this is Turnitin. Now, most institutes get students to submit their coursework to turnitin.com. So, universities and institutes create their own, submission portals in Turnitin, and then students can submit their work to those. So, it helps to detect verbatim copied through its similarity checker. So, there's something called similarity checker, which will indicate the degree to which a student has actually copied information. And believe me, in the last 5 years, I have even seen students who have copied 90%, 95%, and even 98% at times. And it is not just that, this software actually shows from where exactly the student has taken every piece of information if they have copied, right? So technically, if the student has copied but has given the references and has given the credit, then he has not plagiarized. That is technically poor scholarly work. But without giving any credit, the student has just simply copied and pasted. Then that is plagiarism plus poor scholarly work. Okay. Now, uh, subject matter experts, reviewers, and editors, they know how to find these things, so they always do that. And teachers, they usually, implement institution-wide policies, right? So at SIEM, so this CIRP is the previous place I worked, so this is at SIEM. At SIEM, plagiarism often results in a formal inquiry, could lead to failure in an assessment component or even a temporary suspension. So at M level, plagiarism is serious academic misconduct. Okay. Now here's an example of plagiarism. Now as you see here, this first line is being taken from somewhere. So it shows here 3. So if I click up on this, I can see from where exactly the student has taken this. Here, once again, the fourth one. Nothing big. But the second one is, yes, this is direct copying and pasting, and I think the student has tried to change 1 or 2 words here and there. See? So sometimes students change 1 or 2 words, but still the software picks things up. And now even for the coursework that you have submitted, the one in Google Classroom, for that also I have activated the plagiarism or the originality checker to see, the degree to which students actually take the effort to do things without plagiarizing. Yeah. Now that is higher similarity. So getting things highlighted more and more is an indication of higher similarity. So even if you have given credit, higher similarity means poor scholarly work. Okay. Now with that, let's move towards referencing, because referencing is the most important method, or the only method I would say available to acknowledge other people's ideas and work in your writing. This helps in making arguments. You might have noticed in the previous one we made a small argument about how to state the problem. So making arguments, this helps, and demonstrating evidence of arguments, once again this helps, right, to show that this problem occurs because of this. Now who said it? This particular paper, this person has said. So it demonstrates evidence, helps in making arguments, and then it demonstrates the depth and the breadth of your reading. A person who writes a research is someone who has read every damn thing related to that particular topic of interest, right? Now, uh, uh, my main area of research is self-efficacy. Now, when I was doing research in self-efficacy, I made sure that I read almost every available thing about self-efficacy, because I want to read it so that then only I would know what exactly is missing in the puzzle, right? Because I need to find that missing piece in my research. So, the more you read, the better you understand the situation, and the more you can actually help others to understand that as well. So, the more you provide references, the readers would know the depth you have, actually, like dug the literature right into. So that is extremely important. So it demonstrates the depth and the breadth of your reading. And giving acknowledgement is another way of demonstrating our scholarly practice at M level. Guys, now master's degrees are serious business. Serious business. I'm telling this because now people say, look, MBAs are very common. Yeah, I know that, but still, the quality that you maintain in your degree reflects your achievement, right? So a master degree is an indication that you are a master at that subject, right? So we need to reflect that in our writing, our day-to-day conduct, and the way we actually, carry ourselves, right? So uh, pretty much in, like in your writing. So we have to be scholars. So having that scholarliness in our writing is extremely important, and more than that, in a degree, this helps you to avoid losing marks. Now, these are once again extremely important things. Now, here's a few examples of in-text citations. Now, there are two types of referencing. When it comes to referencing, we discuss about two types of things. The first one is the references you usually see towards the end of a research paper. Those are the references. But then those references, whatever the information that corresponds with things that you have written in the script, those are in-text citations. Now, for example, let's say I write an essay. In the essay, I say that, okay, let's go through this example. I'm writing an essay about knowledge. And I say, empiricism alone will not yield the most accurate conclusions. This, let's say this in my second paragraph. Now, how do I know empiricism alone will not yield the most accurate conclusions? I don't know. I might personally know, but then I can't just write it as my personal idea because someone probably must have said it at some point. So I need to show where exactly I have got this. So now I have got this information from a paper written by a person with the last name Johansson in the year of 2017. So I write Johansson, comma, and 2017 within brackets. Now guys, remember your full stop should come after this, okay? You put the in-text citation and then you put the full stop, okay? Now, the corresponding full reference for this Johansson 2017 is available in the list of references, okay, the final list of references. If you go through that previous research paper, you would notice that there's a list of references, and those list of references have come from this set of in-text citations. So the usual way of doing an in-text citation is surname and the year, and if you have given some key information, you can sometimes give the page number as well. Now here's an example. Difficulty decoding American culture is a key reason for lack of student engagements, was said by a person with the last name Schwartz in a paper published in 2011, and it's available in page 70. So Schwartz, 2011, simple p dot 70. Make sure to put a small space in between 2011, and p, and then after p dot there's another space before you write 70. Now that is just in-text citation with one author. Now here's an example where you have a paper and you have taken information from a paper where two people have written it. You can write this in two methods. Now this says Scholz and Schwarzer 2009 reported that self-efficacy is a universal construct. Scholz and Schwarzer in 2009. So Scholz and Schwarzer said something. So it was said in 2009. So you write their names and then within brackets you put the 2009 and say report that self-efficacy is a universal construct. Self-efficacy is a universal construct, and you could just give the in-text citation like this as well. Scholz and Schwarzer, 2009. Okay. Now, another thing that I want to tell is that quoted texts are not encouraged, so don't put quotations. That is not scholarly work. So therefore, keep quotations at a minimum. Write ideas always in your own words. In-text citations. Now, there are sometimes papers written by about 7 individuals, 8 individuals, 10 individuals. So at that time you don't write all the names. So you write the surname of the main author and then you write et al. And then year. Right? Surname, et al. Dot, and the year. So here's an example. Scholz et al. 2007. So if you go to the final reference, you will see the names of all the individuals. Refers to, so et al. Refers to and others. So you still have to list all the names in the final reference. Sometimes we get a piece of information and this piece of information is available in multiple research papers. So then you have to give information, so you have to give the in-text citation using all these papers. For example, let's say someone has done a literature review where he has mentioned interpretative phenomenological analysis is highly effective to understand human experiences. Now, who said it? A person with the last name Daniel in 2008, he has said it, and then you put a semicolon. Bandura has said it in 2010 and Quinn in 2016 also has said. Now this is 3 specific research papers stating the same thing, guys. If you have 3 research papers for something, that is, that's a very valid statement. Okay. So in-text citations for books. If the book has an editor without chapter authors, then you should use the editor's name in the text in-text citation. If the chapter has a specific author, then the in-text citation should have the chapter's author. Okay, so that is something that you have to keep in mind. Same author, same year. Now, research into importance of chocolate on individuals' moods has highlighted a difference between the cocoa levels of chocolate. Who has said it? Hoskin in 2011 research and page 41. Now, he has published 2 papers, let's say in 2011, and you have used both these papers in your same paragraph. So, if you don't do a differentiation, there is no way of finding which paper says which. So, for the first paper, we put 2011A, and for the second paper we put 2011B, just to make sure that these are 2 different papers coming from the same guy in the same year. So now authors with the same surname in the same year. If that is the case, now my father has published research, I have published research, and my sister also has published research. All of us have the same surname. And yeah, now the funny thing is actually my sister and I share the same first name initial as well. So we have to always go with our second name initial. But let's say my father and I have published 2 different papers which I have used in the same paragraph. So if that is the case, then we can put the initial as well. Now here it says, it is important that students develop academic skills as soon as possible during their HE course. Who said it? Williams N in 2017, page 12. Otherwise, students are likely to fall behind as they progress through their course. Who said it? Williams E 2013, page 30. Okay. Now that is 2 different authors with the same name, same surname. In-text citations. Okay, now citing a corporate author. Now I told that you should always get information from credible journals, but there are instances where you have to get certain information from government websites. For example, cigarette smoking is the leading cause of for preventable deaths in Sri Lanka. If no one has written it in no, let's say even if someone has written it in a paper, still you can get this information, much credible information, from the health department's website. So that is something that you could always use, but that's a corporate author. So you write the name of the corporation and then the year of publication. So this in-text citation for a corporate author. Okay. So now here's a small activity that you could do. I have given some in-text citation. Let's see what are the mistakes that we have done here. Okay, the first one says, lack of research on Asian students' leadership is a major problem. Who has said it? In one paper, Liang, Li, and Ting has said it in 2002. And if you look closely after Ting, the comma is missing, right? And there's a semicolon. So Kodama in 2014 has also said the same. Gwen in 2015 has said the same. And again, there's a research paper by Gwen 2016. So here the semicolon is missing. The second one, the problem persists due to limited published research. Who has said it? Kodama 2014. I think that is all right. International students from Asia lack sufficient self-efficacy to pursue leadership activities within universities. Who has said it? Amino, Carter, and Jones 2000. Ballant 2005. Dugan and Comis 2007. Okay, we need to have a small space here. Okay, Gwen 2015 and Gwen 2016. Yeah, so those are certain things that you could find. Okay, so that's about in-text citations, and then I'll post another video like this for the final list of references as well. So make sure to review what we have just discussed so that you would understand the in-text citations and how it works. And always make sure to go through the Harvard referencing guide that I have written. There's a slight variation from the general Harvard when it comes to the Northampton-Harvard that guide I have given. Universities usually have their own, sometimes have their own variations. I have been using Coventry University's Harvard Guide and also the Northampton's Harvard Guide. So it is pretty similar with slight differences, but nothing for us to worry about at this point. So I would encourage you to use that Northampton Harvard one. So I have worked with both the universities, so this is all right. So, but let me know if you find any other questions here. So I'm more than happy to clarify them for you. Okay. Okay. So I'll post the other video as well. But before that, review all the information that we have discussed and take your paper, the one that you have written, and check whether you have done your in-text citation, just like the ones that I have mentioned. If you have given a full reference list, but then haven't given in-text citations, now is the time for you to go ahead and do that as well. Okay.